It is 9:01. Should we get going?
No, yeah,
No,
of
let's
course,
just
yes,
flow
please.
play this whole thing and just let the
Go.
anticipation
Let's
build.
go.
Okay, you guys, thank you so much for joining us. I cannot believe actually we're in a week 8 of this 8-week AI for Business Mastery series, and I'm seeing who's on the call today. Many of you have been on every single live call with us. I know some people catch the recording afterwards, but congratulations to all of you leaning in, time blocking to build your business and learn how you can leverage this technology. Frankly, like you are who we build every day for and who we constantly take into consideration when we're rolling out new product features. It's what are your pain points? What do you need? What's the feedback you give to us? Your constant sharing in the community and joining us on these live calls is really impactful and does impact the decisions we make. So thank you so very much. Again, you can find all of these in Who's Learn. These are recorded and they'll be up there in the next 24 hours. So we've got a lot to go over today. I'm actually super excited about this call today. We're going to be talking about mindset, community, and support and how we can leverage AI to um, grow those elements of our business. And they're kind of like the soft skills too of our business too, if you think about that and really developing human relationships. So I'm excited to learn from Eric today on how we can leverage technology and some elements of automation without really losing that human touch. Like how do we foster deeper relationships when we bring in more technology? So, Eric, is that what we're going to be talking about today?
It is, but we're all learning together, not from, part of the journey. Just to start this thing off, we're going to talk a lot about philosophy and mindset today and just share some ideas and wrap a little bit about that because I don't view business as business. I view business as a journey of personal development. And constantly I say, you can't grow your business unless you're growing you. And so a lot of what we're talking about is just the expansion of you as a person, you as your reach, you as your value, you as your community. And so part of this journey, just so you guys know, is me finding where my weak spots are and then learning how to grow through those and into those to serve at a higher level, and growing a company and growing a mission and growing a value purpose-based vision that's bigger than you requires you to grow into something bigger than you. So everything that we talk about behind the scenes isn't just the technology side, is how do we become, a stronger team, stronger individuals, and then we're stronger for our members and our guests as well. So just to point that out, like thank you for saying learn from me, but holy shit, I'm learning every day, about this process and about this technology and about how to be bigger. And so I hope to continue that over the next hour or so.
Yeah. Before we get started, I'm curious to hear. So I'll just share my thought kind of on historical thought on community and culture. Having previously been a broker owner of real estate, I felt like over the last number of years, like community almost became kind of that buzzword or that cliche term like culture. And I was almost resistant to it because of that, because it carried with it this like underlying self-serving element a little bit. I felt like that's where community kind of went to. And I think in the real estate industry specifically, it's a tough one because you use it as a sales pitch, but you can't experience it really. So just like, trust. So I guess my point is like, community is really something where you're bringing people together with shared interests and ideas and mindset. But I'd love to hear from you, like how you view community fitting into the business world and why it's such a big piece. Also, I want to take the conversation to where people go wrong with it, which I think is what I'm touching on here is the misframing of it, using it as a sales pitch rather than a place where people go to learn, grow, and connect.
Okay, so in the world of social media, here's my thoughts on that. In the world of social media, community has been misunderstood a lot in the influencer space because community is not. I'll start off with what community is not. Community is not an audience that you're broadcasting to. That's what influencers do, and that is also drawing up in terms of value proposition. Community is where there's a certain gravity to something. Generally, it's a community host or steward of the idea, but it isn't just a singular person. It's the mission that that person represents to the people that want to galvanize around that. So if you want to launch something, a product or service, or if you want to dominate in your market, if it's in real estate or plumbing or it doesn't matter what it is, you have to be the gravity of something. You have to have enough weight to you that there's a magnetic attraction to it in order to form a community. The world's noisier and noisier and noisier. And in order to pierce through all that, there has to be a certain gravitational pull to you, or else you're just contributing to the noise. Okay. And so, like with launching Whoosy, the reason why we even started with community as all is because to do something like that, you have to launch with and through communities in order to get to any scale or to reach enough people to make you have enough value, right, in the world and to carve out a space for yourself or carve out for your space for your product. So establishing your own community and connecting with other communities are important. The other part of this mission, just to also peel back the curtain fully, this is the first project that I've done where I haven't fully funded, myself or whatever. I've brought on investors and team members at scale that I've never done before. The reason I did that is because I knew my network had to grow. And I've heard the saying a billion times, Danielle, you guys, that your net worth is directly tied to your network. And you can see that written down and you can read it in a book, but until you really experience it, you underestimate the power of that. And so there's been a couple of key people in this last year that, again, part of the journey is developing myself into a person of value, that you're valuable to valuable people. And that's the same thing that each person on this call is doing. How do you increase your value so you're more valuable to the valuable people that will then fund your dreams and your hopes and your wishes and your family and your business? And so getting into those small networks that are very tight is the only way to carve out space going forward in moving here. There's this mediocrity thing, this kind of people being indifferent to who you are and what you're doing is the death of a small business or a small business owner or a solopreneur. People absolutely have to hear you and love you or hear you and hate you, but know you and know exactly what you stand for. And it's that galvanization that people are sometimes afraid of, or the polarization is the thing that sometimes people are afraid of. And I would say lean completely into that all the way in order to really make sure that you're piercing through the noise.
Hmm. Hmm. And I bet that some miss the mark too when they're making a decision to build a community. They make one of the first decisions is what am I building this community around? But to your point, if you're that gravitational pull, then it's you, and it's actually easier if you're just your true authentic self. Um, but there's got to be some real clarity on what people are drawn to you for, and sometimes we don't quite know that, right? We might have a guess at it. So I think like leveraging AI and being really self-reflective and in understanding what value people see to me, why they continuously come to me, because maybe that's not the way I'm initially framing it.
So I'm going to challenge like that. So I'm a contrarian by nature, and whether that's a good or bad thing, I don't know yet. However, like phrases like that, that I hear, I just don't really resonate. Like, be your authentic self. Give you an example. If I buy tickets to my favorite band, I want to go to that concert and I want to hear them like I'm used to hearing the songs and like I hear on the album. I don't want to get the hungover, tired version of them being on the authentic version of them having been on the road for 6 months and tired and hungover from partying the night before. I don't want that authentic version of them. I want the consistent version of them, whatever that consistent version is that represents to me. So it just challenged that, like that thing that people think, well, people, they just want that authentic version of you. Bullshit. They want the consistent version of you that provides value to them, and that's what they want to pay for, or
Hmm.
that's what they want to align with. So
Hmm.
the connection to AI is AI can help you provide that at more consistent level and a consistent pace. When you do have your ups and downs, when you do have your busy moments, and if you have an AI leveraged system or an AI, second brain or AI agents or AI systems, then of course you're going to have a more stable, consistent version of the things that you want to emulate at a higher volume.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, it's just little things like that. Just I think those are really key things. And that's why we talk about, don't just make AI sound like you, make it sound efficient or effective, right? Those little things I think are the big difference makers in using AI in a way that pierces the noise versus the AI that sounds like ChatGPT wrote it, as an example.
Hmm. Hmm. And I think what you hit on there by pointing out that authenticity that sometimes people uh misinterpret is the intentionality that needs to be tied to that. So for instance, you're a contrarian, right? You approach things kind of from the challenger sale method, right? If that was just your approach, I want to build a community around like this challenger sale approach in business, but that is not actually how you navigate your own life and the way that your brain and mind thinks, then that's not authentic, right? But it's so truly like building the community around what value people see in you and what you bring to the table and being really intentional with building the community
I,
with that
and,
vibe.
and a community isn't, going to be effective if you're rallying around the status quo, right? That's not a compelling version. It's like, hey, we're going to do more of the same, right? So a contrarian nature, a challenger view is really critical to establish that sort of gravity that get people to think, wait, I haven't thought about it that way before. Tell me more, right? You're not trying to stamp and stomp your feet and make posts that say, and people say, yeah, I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that, or I totally disagree with that. It's like, no, I've never thought about it that way. Tell me more. And the leaning in thing, and that is how you really win every listing. That's how you win every sale. That's how you attract the best employees. That's how you get your investors if you need it, because you make them pause and think about things in a different way. And at the core of it, just personally, when you look around, the status quo isn't great. Mediocrity isn't great. The average person is not healthy and wealthy and happy and in good shape and has a great relationship with their kids and their spouse, right? So then why would you want to be more of that? So just by nature, contrarian view is very fun, and you can use AI to dissect things in a way that makes it like generally people think about it this way. However, if I didn't want to think this way, what would be some other ways that I could approach this strategy, right? AI can just help you like start freeing up your mind and deprogramming the way we are programmed to think, and because all of our influencers are pounding at us to be this average sort of way, right?
Mhm.
So if I can just continue a little more, like when I started in real estate, the average real estate agent did about 6 deals. And I was looking at that, I'm like, how can I make a living? As I left, I'm making a good paying job to enter this new field. How can I do that? And I was like, okay, well, if the average person is producing this, then I cannot listen to the advice that is being told in mainstream, and because that's only going to give me average results. So I had to intentionally look to companies like Nike and Ford and things outside of the industry when I first started in order to produce unaverage results, right? Not mediocre results. So I would just like really like every time you hear a little sound bite, like mull it over for a second. Is that really truth? Right? And a
Mhm.
lot of the little sound bites that we have are gurus that are the most dangerous are the ones that make you feel like you've got it because it feels comfortable and it's at home. And if
Yeah, yeah,
you're
and
at
and
home, it's not
and
going to work.
is it true and why is it true? Like to go back to your point on authenticity, right? Question that. Like what do they mean by authenticity? Like what because misinterpreted would lead you down the wrong path, right? What is the intention with that? What are people drawn to? So really when you then approached your business that this way, as a new agent and then eventually became the broker owner, that then rallying a community, which ended up being your brokerage, around you with like-minded people. I mean, if you think about it, um, that really set the trajectory for the business because you are attracting people who are attracted to that mindset and that contrarian view and wanting to try things different and push the envelope. So now, as we think about building additional community, like how could Satori and Sparkpad help us in developing communities and being self-reflective in our intention?
Well, the first thing I would say with that is that the game isn't about visibility, it's about value. And we talked about it before, it's not volume, it's value. And so tools like Satori are meant to give you insights to get hyper personalized or hyper differentiated or a deeper level of work. As an example, like with just using the photo editing to produce images that your competitors aren't thinking about and thinking doing, because you know that visibility and visualization is important to get buyers to convert to that listing, right? Whatever those things are. However, Danielle, actually, I'm going to share my screen, and I'd like to show even the new collaboration tool just as a tactician of sorts. And so in the next release here, let's see, I'm opening here, so I'm on a board. And let's say I am inviting my client because we got a new listing. And so we're going to talk about the marketing. And so maybe we've put the images on here. We want to show how I can, market their home. But then if you can see Danielle here on the purple, now move around a little, Danielle. So if you guys can see on the screen now, the next release, we're going to have onboard collaboration. So you're going to be able to collaborate, whether it's with your clients or with your coworkers or your team or your VA or your co-agent in a deal or whatever it happens to be. You're going to invite them to the board, collaborate on the board, and then do work together, investigate together, or present your ideas together, and then have instant access to any and all information or data or answers or collaborative nature towards the truth in some way, right? So as an example, if I'm talking to my buyer, and we're going to use a real estate use case here, for example, and we're trying to consider how we want to counter offer. If I'm collaborating in a system like this, my buyer, and they can say, "Oh my gosh, well, what is happening in the market? What are the interest rates here? What are people saying about tariffs, or whatever the thing may be for them?" And they can get that with you transparently and instantly. The ability for them to make a clear decision and feel confident about it just skyrockets, right? So what's going to be in this next release is the onboard collaboration. And then like I was talking about with the AI powered tools, I might say something like, Jen, make a report generator that shows, I'm just making something up here for you a second, guys, for a particular zip code. I know it's misspelled, but that's okay. So just think, if I'm meeting with Danielle, she's my client, and I know that she's a market person, and she wants to understand if she should buy maybe a 97015 or 97086 as an example. You can be able to do something like this and make quickly spin something up, and then you're going to be able to say, "Hey, I want to show, Danielle, just something going on in 97015." And just remember, guys, this is beta and this isn't formatted properly, and I gave it a broken prompt. But if you wanted, I could have told it to add my logo, give my content information, show these particular stats because this is what Danielle is. And in a second, I've got exactly presented in a branded way, something that Danielle can really use.
Mhm.
So if you want to talk about collaboration and community, people are really addicted to that level of like personalized service and personalized understanding. If me as a salesperson, I really know Danielle and I can demonstrate it, not just tell you
Mhm.
that I know you, you're
Mhm.
going to talk about me.
This is incredible. So, Eric, you and I are in here together right now. I joined your board. Do I have that ability because you also are in this board, or do I have the ability to jump on this at any time? So, where is that gating? What's your vision?
Yeah, so what's going to happen is, so the last thing we're going to develop here for this sort of sharing was two things. One, how do we collaborate on tools? So if you are in here and you're my guest, what tools do you have access to, right, that you can use and whatnot? And things like files and contacts, right? So Danielle, you have a Whoosy account, I have a Whoosy account. The tools are all the same, but the files that are in my database are different than the files that are in yours and vice
Hmm.
versa. So we wanted the ability to like be able to share those things on a singular board if I've invited you here, right?
Love that.
So if I invited you here and now I want to share a particular file and like the deal that we have, together,
Hmm.
then I want to be able to add that to the board and you be able to see that and us be able to interact with that, right?
This is
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah, I love this. So, I mean, I work with business coaches around the country and they're meeting with clients all the time, right? And so they've got, I can just picture, they've got boards, they're on their coaching call, and then they've got their instructions or advice, wisdom, to-dos, tactics, all of that to give back to their client. Share that in a board so they can continue to build less friction, more efficiency, more effectiveness. This is awesome. And Jamie asked a question here in the chat. she said, what training did you have to do for that report? So you guys saw him type in that prompt. This was the AI tool that will be released soon, but he just said, I want a report generated for a certain zip code. So there was no training. It was just a prompt to create that tool. So really fantastic. Again, with Uzi, you don't have to be a prompt engineer, right? So
Yeah, it is. And so this you guys is the thing all of Satori just to really show is really trying to get to this point where out of thin air I can just put whatever the materials that I need, whatever the ingredients of the thing I'm trying to create on a board, and then transform it into whatever the artifact is that you want. So if that is a report, if that's a graph, if that's a presentation, if that's an email, if that's an AI bot that you want to give chat access to for your customers can get Q&A, all of that is a yes, is trying to get all of the information to transform into the medium that you want. That's the Husey vision with Satori, is to give you the aha, where I no longer have to go to Canva, then I have to go to my email, and then I have to go to the here. You can just do it all in this place. So that's this tool is what we're trying to develop that into.
Um,
Cool.
so Karen asked really actually a fantastic question here. She said that other person you're collaborating with, do they have to have a Whoosy account? Because she's just thinking about the use case where you're sharing this with a client. So,
No.
uh, um, right, Eric, you want to?
Yeah, so almost every other tool like this requires the person to join a board to have a membership of themselves. That's losing sight of what this sort of collaboration and community, since that's the topic today, is supposed to be doing. You're supposed to invite them to the board. They'd have access to the board, or your teammate or your customer, whoever that is, and they can log in and use it anytime. They do not have to be a member, but you just giving them access to log in through a secure username and password. So they have to create their own username and password, and they have access to the board and any number of boards that you would give them or give access to, including your team. Okay. So this user interface will be like share board. Who am I inviting it to? Danielle would get an email. She created a username and password, and then she could log in here without giving a credit card or anything like that.
Yeah, great question, Karen. And just to be super clear, we are talking about future. And of course, as you know, if you've been with Whoosy for a long time, future is never much in the future with us or long in the future. But this, you will not find this currently. So this is planned and being worked on in the moment. So coming soon, better
For
said.
sure. And just to show you, like, just for some other fun, I'd like to just try something here with you guys, if you don't mind. Like, let me actually try this. Um, create a staging report generator using the images on the board. I'm just trying something because I have this thought, so please forgive me if this doesn't work. And that's a really quick, broken prompt. However, this AI tool here will have context of whatever I'm working on. So we're going to call this Danielle. Danielle. Okay. So if you can see what's happening here, it knows that on this board are these two photos as an example. So I don't have to drag and drop, the photos into the report. Again, this is just beta. I'm just showing you a little quick prompt. But again, what this is, when I'm talking about Satori being an AI-powered canvas, it has all of the context of what's happening in the board. So it knows, like, just on the fly that, oh, I wanted these two images. Cool, I'll make the report that way. And again, I could have given it my logo. I could have given it more instructions, but just to give you an idea of the power of this, there you go. That's how quickly you can done. So now just your flyers are automatically generated, your home, your listing flyers, throw it all on here, ask the market stats, throw on the little link to Zillow or wherever you want. Now tell it to make my open house flyer. Right. So just out of thin air, there you go. Okay. And
I love
that's
it.
done, in a way that we've thought we're not building this for us, we're building it for you. And I think something like this, by the way, just I would love feedback. Do you guys like this idea in this direction for the board, or questions, please, in the chat. And I can't see the chats as always, Danielle. So great.
Well, love in all caps just came through. So
Okay. I'm
I
hoping so,
think
but
that's awesome.
you
Yes.
never know.
Yes. Yeah, man, I'm just picturing, being in a team setting and an office meeting or really focused on building and getting feedback from your community or the team that you're working with. And historically we write it on the whiteboard or we put post-it notes everywhere. Now we've got an AI powered vision board essentially that we can share and collaborate with. We can bring everybody's ideas into the board too and see how that affects outputs.
Yes.
That's impactful.
So the last thing to be done here is the little UI to invite to the board, and then adding a little modal to say you're about to share a contact. Is that okay to share that with Danielle? We're about to share a file. Is that okay to share it with Danielle? So we add that just to make sure that everyone's good to go. And then you're seeing the next interface here where there was a couple of kind of fun things. First of all, anytime I can just add anything here, I no longer have to hit this little dot. I can just throw it onto the module and it'll automatically connect. That's a really nice thing because my little eyes sometimes get tired at the end of the day. I don't want to connect little dots. And then also at the same time, your chats now have a shortcut. So you'll be able to click right here. It'll open up a shortcut to anything. And now if I want this book and I just drag it, it's already pre-connected and down here. So you can really get access to the resources much, much quicker. And you can do that, unlimited in this way. So add a contact, great. Add it down, and now it's automatically connected. So little things like that, we're cleaning up and getting, to the point of it, reduce the clicks, reduce the searches and the scrolls and all that. So just to give you a little insight here, what's the next release?
Love that. Love that. I know we're all excited about Satori. Sparkpad is still a really fantastic visual for some workflows, linear iteration. And I can see it being really impactful too for self-reflection and, assessing current projects. So can you share a little bit about that, Eric? So mindset and self-reflection via prompts in the Sparkpad and using that for team building and community building.
Yeah,
Your thoughts?
a simple conversation sometimes is really good. And so the next iteration of SparkPad 2 is also we're going heavily towards voice. And I like to think about things out loud, and I have a journal, and like Rick on the call here, I know is one of the biggest journalers I've ever met in my entire life. Look at Rick's journal. Look at how'd you have to outdo me? Like, look at my little wimpy journal. Look at yours, leather bound, beautiful thing. And I think, what do you have, Rick? Like 19 of those or something that are filled cover to cover. Um,
Like 25 now. Yeah,
oh, well,
25.
that's even bigger, like 25
Mhm.
cover to cover, right? And there's power, there's so much power in that. If you ever met Rick, you know that he's one of the most consistent, human beings on the face of the planet. And that sort of thing doesn't happen on accident, right? It happens when you get out of your own way, get your thoughts on paper, have conversations with impactful people or AI systems that are smart. So sitting down with a spark pad and just letting yourself, talk it out, think it through, has a really big impact on your clarity. And you cannot solve a problem unless you're clear on what the problem actually is. And so the Spark Pad, especially as we're adding Grok's coming, the other one, a couple other different models. So those of you that need clarity of like how to write the code, you're gonna have the model for that. Clarity of how to do deeper analytics because there's a longer context window because you want to give it, 5 years with your financials. You'll have that in there, right? So the Spark Pad, for that sort of conversation to get to it, I absolutely, you have to have a system like that. And I mean, I can't get wisdom from AI like you can from other people because there's a certain
Mm,
emotion behind it. But getting out of your own way by having a chat with a Spark Pad, Danielle, I found to be hyper valuable for me to be able to understand how to communicate that to Nate or to Rick or to my next meeting, right? And so conversation, not just with yourself, is important.
hmm That makes a lot of sense because even just visually, I'm picturing here when you're needing real clarity, right? That take getting really focused and working more in a linear fashion,
Mhm.
and eliminating some of the variables, right? Which add so much power when we're working in Satori for other projects.
And so to make a nuanced, beautiful output, you need all those ingredients. But sometimes you need to have a simple path to be able to get to understand what those are, right? And so starting with nothing and then building out from there is better than adding a whole bunch of shit and then figuring out what to take away.
Hmm
Right.
hmm
So, start with the clearest, most simplest distinction. And I'll start with like, okay, Hoosie, this is in the Sparkpad. Okay, Hoosie, this is the thing that I'm trying to accomplish. I don't know what all the ingredients are for me to do this or who I need to be speaking to. Where do I begin? And sometimes I'll just start with that. In philosophical, I'm talking to some, CTOs and product engineers and designers at these really large companies, and trying to get them to understand that software is where you used to begin the work, right? To sit down and do the work. I'm sorry, to sit down and do the work. But the work began somewhere else. It began in your research or began in your conversation with somewhere else. It began other places, and then you did use the software to do the work. Now, AI is where you're starting to begin the work. And then you also transition to doing the work as well. Okay. So it's just a little bit different relationship. The other thing that is about AI and getting to the truth is that the way software was before, it was receptive, and it would take your inputs and then it would do the thing that it was programmed to do. Now it's inverting the relationship. So like in Spark mode, it's saying, hey, here are the things that you should think about next. Here are the things you should ask. So there's a leadership approach to the software if done well uh, as well. You can even do that in Satori, and I'll include something in my prompts I call a feedback loop. So at the end of every generation, ask me a question that ensures that I fully understand what my next steps are. And I just add that so I can actually show you that how I do something like that in Satori, just so you know. If you wanted to, you could have a little context block and say something like this. At the end of each generation, yeah, I'm not going to do the whole typing thing right now, generation, and you give it those instructions, give it to your AI, and then now at the end of each generation, it will give you that little extra little thought process or question. And that really helps with my thinking as well. That's kind of a life hack as well. If you don't want it for a generation, great. I leave it on the board, but I disconnect it. I continue my work. And again, it's not affecting the context here, but the minute I hand this over, is when it affects the context again. So you can kind of use it like an on and off switch anytime you want it. You can do stuff like that.
I love that. And man, I'd argue too that that is not just a slightly different approach with the way you framed that, right? Historically, we approach software to do the thing, but the thought process and the building happened prior, but now you're going to AI to start that process. My gosh, like I think that actually completely hits on the disconnect and where people are missing the mark because they're approaching AI as the tool. What do I do here? What does it output for me? Not objective first. You know, when I coach, it's always start with objective first, not tool first. What am I needing to accomplish? And then you start that process, that thought process.
I think we're going to get a really large account because yesterday I told the CEO and the founder of the company that the companies that view AI as a tool will get it wrong. The companies that view AI as another voice in the room will get it right. And just that like soundbite, they go, "Oh, okay, tell me more. That's a contrarian view. I've never heard that before." And they leaned right in, and then it was really easy to explain that AI is a voice in the room, especially now as we get to this, like in ChatGPT 4.1, 4.5, 4.0 mini, the next Grok 3, the next, like Josh is in here. I can't wait to talk to Josh later today because he's been doing a bunch of research on all the latest models and how we can infuse those in the product. And so as we've now reached like the very beginning of an AGI, ASI sort of thing, we have to treat it as a voice. And whether or not we listen to it or not, it's still, we have agency in that. That's still up to us to know what to do with that information. But we've never had something like this before. So does require this new level of thinking. And so the thing about that too is if you as an individual are surrounding yourselves with people that don't think like today and tomorrow, but they're thinking like yesterday, you're gonna have a really hard time, right? And so choosing those people that you're surrounding yourself with today has never been more important because most people are still playing by yesterday's rules and they're going to lose today's game. Right? So you have to be really putting yourself in a position to win. That's what I hope that we can provide here at Whoosy as a part of that, right? Because this mission is not about us. This is an empowerment company. We're not looking to empower ourselves. We're looking to empower everybody that we touch. And so that's a mission bigger than me or you, Danielle, or Rick on the call or whoever. That's something worth working on, I think, and worth waking up in the day for. And so that's the type of thing, like you just got to really, really be focused on that now because those little old ways of thinking will just kill your progress.
And so when we talk about building community, like if that's that's what you want to build your community around, then be really intentional in who you select, who you let in, how you lead the conversations, how you frame tools, resources, processes, all of that. It's to support that way of thinking and that type of community. So we've found that Satori is our fantastic place to go for collaboration, right? And to collaborate and kind of expand our mind. So Sparkpad is a fantastic resource for that kind of reflection, right? And getting down to the root and intentional thought process. What about AI agents? Because when we think about building our community, and which extends sometimes to our customers as well too, right? Because if we're team leaders, our community, that's our brand. That's a part of our brand. How the experience that our agents or our, I don't know, like the extension of us have, but that is also the case for our customers. So how do we leverage AI agents?
Our
Foster that.
AI agents, I think Josh, and please, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but Josh has been doing some work of how do we even improve the AI agents that we have like as quickly as possible. Josh, I saw you did some work yesterday on giving them internet connectivity as an example. So the AI agents can be connected now live to the internet, not just have the knowledge base and the latest model, but have the latest model, the knowledge base, and internet connectivity, which is great. So mortgage brokers being able to find, the most recent rates or accessing, finding something online in a search on your website is really powerful. And so those sorts of things, create community because when they can get value from you that they can't get anywhere else, and it's timely, that creates a value proposition, a certain gravity that they want to talk about and tell. So just as AI agents an example, like again, there's a little bit of an arms race here, and how do you continue to serve your clients better than they are serving themselves with their AI powered tools, right? That's the part of this arms race. It's not against your competitors, not just against you. It's about how fast is your consumers arming themselves with this sort of knowledge and tools, and can you at least keep pace with that? Because if you're at least keeping pace with that, like their use of ChatGPT or their use of a large language model, but now you add your industry expertise, you're automatically going to be an expert to them. Because now you know everything they know about AI, but then you still have the industry expertise that's packed on top that they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's the key. It's just you don't have to be like way ahead of all your consumers on this AI stuff. No, but at least keeping pace with them and then just now stacking your industry expertise is the way to win.
Okay, so how would a leader then kind of balance the efficiency of these AI driven communications, right, with our customers or our community with the real need for genuine and really empathetic human interactions? Like how do you balance that? Or is that a necessity? I mean, maybe
Yeah, I mean,
maybe
it's a
is that a
trillion-dollar
necessity?
question. I love the question. I don't want to, I would love to, people put, ideas in the chat here too, and put your own questions in the chat. We have a small enough group here. I want to make sure I'm just not, speaking here. Um, I, you guys, the only reason why I really started on this whole project, because I was just scared shitless of what's going to happen to society when we have the dead internet, where it's just bots talking to bots and AI avatars talking to AI avatars, and where are the people at? And how do we talk to each other? Um, but I've gotten over that, thinking that first of all, we crave human interaction. We're such social beings. There will be a large section of the community that replaces genuine connectivity with their AI girlfriends and boyfriends and their AI doctors and their AI whatever it is, right? There will be a subsection of our population that does that, and that's just got to be something we're okay with. Um, when you look, I do a lot of work on personal development, and there's basic human needs, and one of them is love and connection. Most people are settling for connection because love is scary. You know what I mean? Like it's a scary thing to be vulnerable enough to love somebody, right? And so we settle for connection. We get connection a lot of places, and you can get connection with an AI bot, right? So that said, let's just table that. The rest of the world, at its core, though, will understand and put a premium on a meal that's made by a human being versus a meal that's made by a robot. A conversation that's with another human being versus a conversation with AI. There will be a premium on those things. And because there's no, like, it'll be a premium of watching sports in real time, on the field versus watching an AI generated sports, movie that you can just prompt. Like, I want some dopamine today. I want to watch a FIFA World Cup, soccer match that goes in triple overtime. And AI will just spin that up and you can watch it if you want. That to me won't satisfy you at the deepest level as it will to going to the soccer match. Okay. So long-winded answer to it's okay to be leaning into these tools as long as we're not doing two things. One, lying and pretending like it's not really us. I see a lot of companies like, hey, you don't even have to tell your customer that it's not you because it sounds like you and looks like you and is responding like you, and they'll just think that you're responding. What? Like what? Like what? Right?
Yeah.
So, really leaning into the humanity part, I have to keep, as the CEO of this company, I can't lose sight of that, I think, first of all.
That makes complete sense. And I think we should always be questioning too, or taking into consideration like what the experience is or what someone's wanting out of that interaction. Are they just wanting an answer? Are they wanting your wisdom, right? Because you can start to separate out those
Mm.
interactions. Like for instance, I love human connection, love that, but sometimes like I just want to type in an answer or find it on the website.
Yeah.
If I'm getting a phone call, if I'm getting a phone call when really I just wanted an answer, although that may seem like an awesome extra added value, that's not what I wanted. That's what I just wanted the answer really quickly. So if you think about that, maybe put your bots or your AI agents in a position where your customers or your community are coming at it with that expectation, to your point.
So, like, if there's any real estate agents on the team or here on the call that like, you know, have a team, and one of the problems that people don't want to have a team is because they think that the customer just wants them. And then if they can't get to you because you have a buyer's agent or listing agent or whatever it is, they're not getting you. But in reality, the customer just wants whatever you represent to them. So that's professionalism, or you're a tough negotiator, or you've got a certain area of expertise or certain type of property that you're an expert in. That's what they want. And if that's represented in a buyer's agent, listing agent, or an AI tool, that's fine. As long as it's very, very clear that it's the expectation of the desire of what the value is, not the personal relationship. So provide all the value of what they're looking through business through your AI tools, not the relationship part of it. And the relationship part has to still come from you.
Hmm. Hmm. Love that. Okay. So what questions do we have? We'd love to just open up the floor and answer any questions that you guys might have on building community or using Satori, Sparkpad, or even AI agents to do that. Answer customer questions, community interactions, things like that. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, or welcome you to come off
Yeah, for sure.
mute as well too. So Karen's got a question. Karen, I see your hand is up, so please.
Hi, Karen.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. So I put the AI bot. I did a QR code, correct? And I put it in my social media and
Mhm.
said, click here for immediate responses. Is that what I'm supposed to be doing with that? Or do you have another recommendation? I haven't had anyone click on it yet.
Oh,
So a great question, Karen. So first and foremost, QR codes generally are used in places where you couldn't click a link. So that would be like on a paper flyer or on a menu or something like that, because you can't actually click it, right? So the QR code is the way to get the link on your phone by taking a photo of it. So you wouldn't actually need to put that on social. Just share the link if that's, because then someone is having to grab another device to take a photo of the QR code. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I didn't put click here. I think I said scan the code for immediate response.
But
So
are you doing that on social?
yeah, I did it on my story.
So if
And
someone's seeing it on your story, they have to grab another device to take the
oh,
photo
true.
of, yeah.
True.
So you just want to use that on print advertising.
Okay.
Yeah. So a great turnaround for that would be to like do a link to a link tree potentially, or just a direct link to wherever it is you're wanting to send them to. A link tree would be great if you have a number of different things, because that could expose them to maybe other listings or other products that you're offering.
Okay.
So just to be clear, every AI agent has its own URL. So on an Instagram story, you can enter a URL as one of the little tools on your story. So you'd be able to just simply grab when you click share agent, it says get shareable link. Now, this is the URL that you'll enter into the little widget on Instagram as an example, and then they'll be able just to click right on that URL and go to your AI agent. And that would be the way that you deploy that on your social media story. Yeah, good question. Great tactical question. I love tactical questions. I don't want to talk just philosophy. So if you have tactical questions, fire away.
Yeah, and they often benefit more than more people than you know. So thanks for asking. Really appreciate that. Okay, anybody else before
We had a question from Leanne saying these trainings have been amazing, both for the content and the quality of the community. And are there going to be more? This is the eighth one of the 8th week, right, Eric?
Oh,
Yeah, for
awesome.
sure. I bit off a lot, trying to sneak these in. Like this
Yeah.
morning, I was already Happy Valley Business Alliance doing one. We got another one in 10 minutes. So I bit off a lot doing these. And so I'm going to have another segment. And again, this is an iterative process. So I've gone back and I reviewed, where I felt like we fell short or the material was flat or things have improved since. And so we're doing another version that will be like a version 2 of this that improves on it and grows upon that, right? So I know I didn't knock each one of these classes out of the park, and there's things that I wish we could have done better for the group, and so we'll be looking to improve those and then launch another course here in the future. In addition to staff, Rick and Danielle and Josh and other people will be part of those as well moving forward as we get more trained and as a team to be able to bring those to you. So thank you for that feedback. But yeah, we're absolutely going to continue. That's part of the value proposition of Whoosy. If we weren't an empowerment company, I'd just be selling tools. Right. And so, but part of the value add is to have a community, have real human beings that you're talking to, collaborating with, getting inspiration from, and then going and dominating in your market. Right. So for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. And just a reminder too, if you haven't joined us, thank you so much for saying that the community matters to you, Leanne. So we bring the community together for live calls once the first Tuesday of every single month, consistently every single month, first Tuesday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Rick and I join the community and we share our use cases, both business wise and personally, and we have just a really great time connecting with one another. So
I'm going to build an army, you guys, of a bunch of empowered people, working on the things that you're working on. Doesn't matter if it's dentistry or real estate or coaching youth athletics. And that's the part that's a little bit self-serving because that's the type of people I just want to be around. People that are alive and interested in the world and passionate and growing and those sorts of things. And so just at the core, that is the mission, is to just find a freaking bunch of those people, right? And interact with them daily. And what a great life that is. So yeah, Josh, you have your hand up too, bud?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on this idea of AI as a voice in the room. Because it's it's very much like an abstract mindset shift, but I think that's a lot more actionable maybe than people realize. Whenever I'm working or talking and I have a long conversation, I always end off with like, what do you think of all this? What's your opinion, Mr. Model, Mr. Sparkpad? Sometimes I'll even go with like, hey, if you were going to do this yourself from scratch, like the original prompt after all my massaging or input, like what would you do? And then it'll do sort of its version. I'll be like, okay, like what do you like about yours? What do you like about mine? I kind of like this. Let's find a middle ground. And that's something that will scale and produce better results as the models get better, which they probably will.
Yeah, that's actually a great example of partnering with a Sparkpad or Satori or AI than commanding it. And you get way better results out of people if you partner with them than if you command them what to do. So you go back to the very beginning, you asked me about my brokerage, Danielle. I looked at what was broken with the model, and basically it was centered around this particular broker or this team leader. And I opened, Windermere Realty Partners, Better Homes and Gardens Realty Partners, and viewed every single member of the community as a partner and was very transparent. It's like the only reason why you're here is because you get more by pooling your resources and money together than you could on your own. So it was a true partnership, and that was a mission that people were willing to rally around, and that's why we grow in our markets. So, view AI as the same way. It's truly a partner. It's not to be elevated above you or elevated up past your coworkers or whatever, but it can be your partner in your mindset and your thinking, like the way Josh described it. I think that's great, Josh. Thank you for sharing.
Even, it has a problem, right, of telling you what you want to hear a lot of the time. So I'll be like, hey, try to prove me wrong. Like pretend that I'm wrong and convince me that I'm wrong. And if it can't, then I'm like, okay, I might be actually onto something and not just in my own little spiral.
Love that. Love
that actually, don't underestimate that right there. It's a confirmation bias machine a lot of the times. ChatGPT especially, because they're building it to get you addicted to it, and you're nothing more addicted to something that confirms how great you are, right? So do not fall victim to that, and look for it to challenge you, challenge your assumptions. Do not underestimate the power of what Josh just said. Yeah.
Fantastic.
All right.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Again, we just wrapped up the 8th week of our 8-week series. So over these last 2 months, we covered sales and marketing, operations and efficiency, technology and innovation, leadership and team management, hiring, training and retention, financial and business planning, content creation on social media. And then today we ended with mindset and community building and using your AI to support your community and your customers as well too. So we went over a lot of tactical use cases for AI in your business to scale and grow both professionally and personally. You'll find those in Whoosy Learn, so please leverage them, and more training coming at you, of course, always as the product continues to iterate and we find additional use cases. And then we encourage you also, as Rick just posted in Whoosy Connect a couple days ago, to share how you Whoosy, how I Whoosy in the community, because those use cases inspire others to find more creative use cases to stretch themselves in different directions. So thank you so much for joining us. You'll find this on the next 24 hours in Learn, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next call.
Post in the community with your questions or your requests. A request for a class, like great Jamie just said, hey, I'd love to get more into AI agents. Put all those requests in the community. We're watching those and we're doing the best we can to serve up on those. So use that as your resource, you guys. Thanks again. Go crush it today. See you later. Bye.